Welcome back, guys. Johnny Keck over at AMP Futures. Thank you for tuning in. MultiCharts.net, AMP exclusive platform. We're going to be covering the next exit strategy. We just covered the bracket strategy prior to this video. We're going to be moving on to the break-even strategy, which is this icon that I currently have selected, as you see on the screen here. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and left-click on the icon. Let's hover our mouse cursor and let's read the short description of the break-even strategy. When you are in a position and the market is moving with you, this strategy can place a stop limit or a stop market order at the break-even level. You can specify transaction costs and protect yourself from losing any money in the case the market moves against you. So typically what a break-even strategy will do is, let's say you have an initial stop in place, a protective stop to protect your position, and if the market moves a certain amount of points in your favor, which is what we call the profit trigger, you will then say that I want my stop to move to break even once that profit trigger is met. So if worst case scenario, if the market starts to move against you, then you'll break even on the trade, so you won't lose any money. So that's what the break even strategy will do. While we're in this subject, I want to cover two simple exit strategies that are very simple, so I'm going to just knock those out real quick. These two icons that you see here, this first icon with the red arrow pointing down is a stop loss strategy. You can specify the maximum acceptable loss in pips, percentage, or dollar amounts, and the strategy will place a limit order to protect you in case the price moves against you. And then here's a profit target strategy, which is the green arrow that's pointing up. Let's go ahead and hover our mouse cursor and read the profit target strategy. You can specify the desirable profit target in pips, percentage, or dollar amounts, and the strategy will place a limit order to capture the profit once the target you set has been reached. So it does the exact opposite of a stop order. So those two are just very basic. As I mentioned, and just on the entry strategy sections, just like limit and stop, these are very two basic exit strategies. So this would be ideal to use, for example, if you have no intent to have a profit target, you just want to use a stop loss to manage your position. Or vice versa, if you decide that you don't want to use a protective stop and you only just want to manage your position using a regular profit target. So you would use either one of these icons. All right, so you just right-click, go to Edit. You could set your offset value here based on ticks or value or price, or you could do the same exact thing for the profit target strategy as well, based on percentage, tick value, or actual price. All right, so the reason why I'm pointing this out is because in order for you to use a trailing stop exit strategy or a break-even exit strategy, you have to have an initial stop in place. Otherwise, if you don't have a stop in place, there is no stop to trail, there is no stop to move to break even. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's set the initial stop loss. We'll go ahead and set the amount of loss. We'll keep a very basic example of 8 ticks, which is 2 points on the mini S&P. We're going to auto-attach to orders. We're going to hit save. Notice there's a green check now on the stop loss strategy. So that's the first step. I'm going to have to set my initial stop first in order for me to use a break-even strategy to work in conjunction with the stop loss strategy itself. So now I'm going to locate the break-even strategy, which is this icon here. If whenever in doubt, just left-click the icon, hover your mouse cursor, and you will see the title and label of that specific exit strategy. I'm going to right-click and go to Edit. And now we have two fields here. You can see activated profit and transaction cost. So let's explain what activated profit means. All right, so again, there's same process in terms of implementing the values. You can either do it based on percentages or actual tick value based off, this is actually going to be based off where your entry price is as well, so your average fill price, not last trade price. Or you can specify actual price if you wish to do that. For now, I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm just going to use the offset value based on ticks. All right, so what activated profit means, let's assume if we were to get filled at 2074.75, that would mean that if the market were to move 8 ticks from 2074.75 in my favor, which would be 2076.75 if I had a value of 8, then that would then move my stop to break even. So that's what we call the profit trigger, activated profit. So whatever value that you have set at activated profit is going to be your profit trigger that's going to initiate the break even to work. Now, if you think about it, if the market moves to 2074.75, which is where you got filled at, or better yet, your stop moves to that price, which is your break-even level, the reality is that's not really a true break-even because you still have to pay commissions and fees to get into the trade itself. And that's why the transaction cost value field is there, because technically speaking, if you just move your stop to break even where you got filled at, that's not a true break even because you still have to pay fees to get in and out of the trade. So you're still at a net loss after all, when it's all said and done in terms of fees. So transaction costs will help make it a true break even. So for example, on the mini S&P, the tick value is $12.50 for every tick, and AMP futures $12.50 should be more than enough to cover your cost. So if you put one tick, for example, what that then means is the market were to move at 2076.75, which is the 8-tick profit trigger, then our stop is going to move at 2075, not 2074.75. So if worst case scenario, the market comes back down and goes against us, we're going to lock in one tick of profit, which is really a true break even. If anything, you're going to make a little money because $12.50 is more than enough to cover your costs at AMP futures. So that's what that transaction cost field will do. If you add a positive value to the offset there, you're essentially locking in one tick of extra profit based on the stop moving one tick above your entry price. All right, so let's go ahead and show you a quick example. I'm just going to show the offset value. I'm going to keep it at 0 for now. I'm going to auto attach to orders. We definitely want this strategy to be applied when we get into the position. So it's a two-step process. You have to set your initial stop loss, which is what we've already done, and then we have to set the break-even value parameters based on what we've done here. So we're telling the market, we're telling the strategy if the market moves 8 ticks in my favor from my original fill price, then that's when the break-even is going to kick in. So I'm going to hit save, and let's go ahead and place a simple buy limit at 2070, or better yet, let's do it a little farther down so I can show you what it looks like. So we'll place a buy limit at 2068, for example. All right. Now let's go over what we see here. Okay, so I can explain how this exactly works. So let's first look at our initial stop loss, which is what we set of 8 ticks, as you can see there. And if we see here, we're working a buy limit to buy at 2068. So assuming if we had a stop loss of 8 ticks and we're going to go long, that means our sell stop, once this order is filled at 68, we should have a sell stop at 2066. And as you can see, there's a representation and display right on the chart itself that's showing you that there's going to be a sell stop at 2066. So that's good. That looks good. Now let's open up the break-even strategy and make sure that all looks correct. So now we have the break-even strategy dialog box open. Activated profit is set to 8 ticks. We have that auto attached. So let's make sure that everything is correct. So if we're going to buy at 2068 and we have an activated profit at 8 ticks, then that means that the profit trigger should be at 2070 even. So let's take a look. You can see that there's an indication. I know that's a little hard to see. I apologize, but that actually says trigger level. And that's the trigger level at 2070, and that's 8 ticks from our entry point. You can see that. And then you can see that the break even will give you a display of where the stop's going to move. So the stop will move from 2066 to 2068 even. All right, so that's exactly how the break-even strategy works. Essentially what you're doing is if the market, let's say we get filled at 68, and the market starts to move up, move up, move up, move up, and hit 70, our profit trigger, 8 ticks, then our stop loss is going to move to break-even. All right, and that's pretty much what the break-even strategy is going to do. And again, if you forget to auto-attach the strategy, so let's say, for example, if I hit cancel all orders, all right, I forget to auto-attach any of these extra strategies, I go to place the trade, and now I have basically a naked buy limit at 2070. Remember, you can always take your extra strategies and you can drag and drop them right on the order itself. So just all you have to do is make sure you set the parameters. So for example, if I left click on this break-even strategy, let's say I want to apply the stop strategy first, left click, drag it, drop it right on your working order, make sure the values are correct. So we'll keep the 8-tick offset, play strategy. And then not only that, but we want to also apply the break-even strategy as well. So that's bracket. Let's locate the break-even strategy, which I believe is this one here. I'm going to left click, drag it right onto the chart, and drop it on the order, play strategy, and now you can see that we're able to recover the previous strategies even if we forgot to auto attach them. So you can see now I have a stop loss of 8 ticks at 68. There's my buy limit at 70. There's my break even, and there's my profit trigger. All right, so very simple, very straightforward, and that's how you implement a break-even strategy within MultiCharts.net. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is a very popular one called the trailing stop, and then we'll finish everything up with the master strategy, which is a very popular extra strategy within MultiCharts.net. Thank you for your time, guys. We'll see you in the next segment.